Hey guys, this is ArsenalGiantsPs3, and this is quite an original idea. We've never really done this sort of thing before, but what me and Max decided to do is after the update video I uploaded yesterday, is that we decided we'd try something along the lines of a podcast. And to introduce Max, who hasn't been on the channel for a good year or so, even longer than I wasn't actually, here he is right now.
Hey guys, it's a long time no here, I guess.
Banter.
Yeah, I just want to say, I don't know, sorry, I guess, for not making videos in ages. But I don't know, it got to a point, I think, with YouTube where everyone became, well, it's a bit bitchy, but like, everyone became a bit samey. It was very hard to be unique. And then, like, it got all to the kind of the wages and the coin sellers and all this stuff, and you kind of lost what made it really good when we started back in start of FIFA 12. What made it really fun and kind of individual. So yeah, basically, in that long grovelling speech there, I'm saying sorry for not turning up or
wasn't much of an apology, but
yeah, it was a shit. Yeah, sorry, but but yeah, I don't know. I definitely miss it sometimes. I miss being able to read the comments and see what people have to say. So I thought we'll try our hand a bit. We've got ages off uni, so we'll try our hand at just, I don't know, talking football. Something we like doing, and we like. I'd like to say we know about our stuff, but
so yeah, essentially the concepts of this sort of series, possibly. This is like a test video of it. First is that we're just going to be talking about Arsenal. First off, we're going to talk about last season very briefly, and then like our expectations and stuff for this season. And then if this video is quite successful in terms of like comments and you guys want to hear more from it, then we'll like continue doing that throughout the season of like whatever match was played that weekend, and like just like talking points.
I mean, this is essentially a podcast. I mean, you don't have to watch the video. There's nothing like on the screen or whatever. But this is you just minimise the tab or whatever, and just listen to us speaking if there's something that interests you. I mean, we're just going to be talking and just giving our opinions and talking.
Exactly. This is more our opinion. We don't claim to be experts on not only Arsenal but football especially. We don't know.
We're in that dangerous middle ground. We watch too much football to be casual, but not enough to be kind of it in the know or expert.
In the nose on Twitter or something.
So if you value our opinions and just want to hear what we say, really. Then we'll be interested to see some feedback, some comments, and we're happy just to kind of try a hand again at this whole YouTube thing. So we're just going to start off this podcast really, and we're talking about Arsenal. So we're talking about the 2013-14 season, and it was very much, I would say, as an overview, it was the end of an era in a way. It was the end of this kind of expectation that fourth place was just guaranteed us, because we really did. We went for it. We were 128 days or whatever at the top of the league, and it ended on a really high note. Winning the FA Cup. It was special. I'd say it was very special because being of the kind of late 90s, being born around then, we've never really grown up knowing Arsenal to win stuff. I mean...
No, I personally only really started watching Arsenal when, 2006 time, so I didn't really know what it was for Arsenal to really win a trophy as such.
It sounds weird, but, I vaguely remember, being an Arsenal fan in 2004 and being, 10 or wherever we were. But this season was it was exciting because there was for a long time, we'd signed a big player and it looked like we were going to do big things. But in the end, again, the squad wasn't big enough. We didn't sign enough players. But you can ultimately say it was a success in a way because we won a trophy. I mean, it's still not where we want to be as a club, as prestigious as Arsenal, you could say. But overall, it was a good season. But again, in the league, it was horrible to see us get trounced, and it's something we still need to work on massively. But overall, I would say it was a semi-successful season. We were halfway there. I mean, we did catch a break in the FA Cup. I mean,
I think at the start of the season, our expectation after losing 3-1 to Aston Villa, and it was looking pretty damn bleak at that point. We were just hoping for another top 4 finish, and Wenger wasn't signing anyone or anything like that. It was looking really bad, and then all of a sudden we brought in Ozil, and this expectation sort of caught grasp of the club. And then we were top of the table by November, carrying on into Christmas, and suddenly this idea that we could possibly win the Premier League, and
it was I mean, I never believed that we would win it. I mean, the telltale game for me was the game against Everton, where we kind of tossed and turned, and we couldn't really kind of get a hold of the game. And then we did get the lucky goal from Özil, and then we conceded some goal from I don't even know how to say his name.
Defilou.
Delafeu. I don't know.
That's probably closer than I was.
The young Barca guy. And it was typical of us, and then we went into the Christmas period on a down note, and it was one of those things that as an Arsenal fan you see coming from a mile away. But I mean, this season is going to be different, but we're not going to talk about that straight away. We're just going to do a bit of an overview of the 2013-14 season. So Tyler, what would you say was a game of the season for you?
The game of the season. There are a lot of high points actually from this season. Obviously, I want to say, like, in the Champions League, we had some great evenings. Like when we won 2-0 against Napoli, we saw some of our best football we've played in years, and it was so gratifying to beat a top team so convincingly. Obviously, we have great wins at home. Not against any of the big teams. I think winning against Liverpool 2-0 early on the season.
That was a good game because we just
pretty good.
For the first time in ages we just didn't look nervous. They had nothing in that game. I remember Sturridge and Sterling having a bit of a falling out because one of the other didn't pass. And we scored that. Obviously, Rambo scored an amazing goal.
Oh yeah.
Also, a good shout as well was the 1-0 win over Dortmund.
Yeah, that was pretty.
It's good to win there because I think we went there it was the season before, or 2012, I can't remember. We got the draw with Traitor scoring the goal. But that was definitely a game. But I think the one, for me, if I had to pick a game of the season, there's no doubt that it's the FA Cup final because...
Oh, well, yeah, of course.
I mean, we won the trophy, so it's got to be there. I mean, just purely in... We actually won something, for fuck's sake.
Well, I mean, it was a pretty hard game to take. Like, in the opening 20 minutes, I was kind of tipsy at that point, but I was, like, hands on your head, like, screaming, like, surely not.
We've been there before as well.
It reminded me so much of the Carling Cup, really.
I was watching it at my campus, and we have, like, a big piazza thing, and everyone sat there. And it was, like...
Piazza.
It was... I don't know what the word is. It was, like, big steps or whatever, and you got that screen. And it was like mostly Hull fans, and I use that, saying it in the most generous term, who just basically wanted to see Arsenal lose. And when we were 2-0 down, it was absolutely hideous. Like, the atmosphere was sour, everyone was laughing, and it was going to be one of those days you just thought, oh, for fuck's sake. And then, obviously, because all scored, it only went out from there, really.
Yeah.
But that's purely because we won a trophy. But another good shout for a game of the season, the 4-1 win over Everton was impressive.
That was pretty cool, and there was this whole like symbolism behind like Arsenal were finally heading to Wembley Stadium again, and like there was so much criticism at that point over like Ozil and everything, and he scored the first goal, and then he set up Giroud and everything, and it was really quite cool.
It was a good game, and obviously the 2-1 win over Liverpool. We had, in fact, that FA Cup run was quite impressive.
Oh yeah, like starting off that win against Tottenham as well. But in terms of like an actual overall game of the season, I can't really pinpoint one apart from the FA Cup, obviously. Yeah. But obviously, probably in the Champions League, I would say winning 2-0 over Napoli.
That was definitely a good game because that was his first Champions League. It was his first game of the group stage, I think. Yeah. So, and now kind of darkness comes over us. Worst game of the season. It's a tough one actually. We've got three contenders you could even say.
Three.
Well, if you count the City game.
Oh, well, that wasn't too bad because I didn't actually watch it, so I wouldn't know much about that. I was following that on Twitter as I was coming home on the train, so that wasn't too bad. But I think, honestly, it would be Liverpool over Chelsea, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. Depends. I could. Both clubs hold a special place
in hatred.
Yeah. I don't know. The Liverpool one was... demolished quicker? I can't even remember. We're 4-0 down 20 minutes.
Well, after 20 minutes 4-0 down, I think at that point we realised we weren't going to get anything out of it. But also the same game against Chelsea when Kieran Gibbs got sent off, which is so stupid. We also knew at that point we were going to get anything at the bridge.
Both games, because they were both 12:45 kickoffs on BT Sport.
BT bastards.
I think both of them, like, I don't know, it's waking up on that Saturday morning like, oh, we got a big game, and then, you miss, for some reason I think I was... Where was I? At the Chelsea game, actually, I was in London.
Oh, God.
I was in London looking for a pub that was showing it, which is apparently ridiculously hard. So just, you're looking for the pub, I'm like, shit, we're 10 minutes late. Turn on Twitter and we're 2-0 down, we got a man sent off. I would go Liverpool, actually, I would agree with you, purely because it was the first one.
Yeah.
we've been there, done that by the time it was 6.
I think also that particular point in time at the season really changed the whole the shift in the table. After that, Liverpool had great momentum, started picking up points and going up the table. We were dropping down, losing points, dropping points.
Yeah.
But as the Chelsea, it was pretty much a foregone conclusion. We were out of the title race at that point.
Yeah.
So I think Liverpool definitely hit the hardest. I think.
And then separately, just as a kind of last bit of this part, what would you say was the game of the season, regardless of Arsenal, just in terms of purely entertainment?
I hate to be that guy, but I really want to say Crystal Palace 3-3.
That was exciting, but I don't know, what was the was it when Liverpool beat City at Anfield? That was a really exciting game.
I think the atmosphere in that game was incredible.
It was a great atmosphere. It was a great advert for the Premier League, really. But I don't know, this season hasn't been quite as exciting as previous ones.
No, there haven't been great blockbuster matches. It's been a pretty consistently good season.
The City game over United when they played at Eastlands, or whatever it's called now, Etihad, at the start of the season was quite exciting because it was just kind of oh shit, United are actually in the shit this year.
Yeah.
And no one really believed it. It was kind of oh, Dave Moyes, be boring.
Yeah, I think also one good point was Man United drawing 2-2 at Old Trafford against Fulham when David Moyes celebrated the equaliser in the 80th minute. That was really symbolised that for me. That was quite special.
I think maybe we're picking that one purely because it's United. But,
a little bit of Arsenal bias
so
maybe.
That's the games of the season.
So next up on our kind of topic question is the player of the season. Now there are quite a few contenders for this one, so I'll let you start with this one, Max.
Well, I think it's very much a case of who played when. I mean, if we were going to choose this in December, it would 100% be Aaron Ramsey. Because you just got to... When I think of Aaron Ramsey, I must admit, part of my brain still goes back to those kind of grim nights in 2013 when he's trying the back heels every 5 minutes and giving the ball away. But then, I think it's because you think of that. It's the kind of how well he started the season that makes it so amazing that how much of a turnaround he made.
Particularly for Aaron Ramsey, it kind of epitomised Arsene Wenger's trust in him.
Yeah.
He was still playing him when everybody else, including myself and Max, kind of said some, was kind of slagging him off a bit and saying he should be dropped, maybe even loaned out or even sold.
I think so. A lot of I don't know. It's something about young kind of British players like Bale had the same thing at Spurs. I think you've got to find your feet because there's so many kind of foreign players or European players playing in the Premier League that it takes time to adapt because it's not as similar as it is to in the youth sets up where it's very British football. It's got to a point where you've got to actually adapt to the English game, which is just bizarre. But he took his time and then he just freed up. He didn't try. He didn't try to be as I don't know.
It's all of a sudden things he was trying back in 2013 were actually coming off now, and he had this confidence. Arsene Wenger said recently that he literally had to tell him to go back to basics.
Yeah.
Keep it very simple and just do everything from the very bottom and build it up again. And it's really come off this season. He's taken long shots, taken long passes. He's moving his feet quicker.
Yeah.
He seems to be this hub now. Before he was a bit of a liability.
Yeah.
Now he's the creative hub of the team. In which a team that has Ozil, Wilshere, and a lot of creative talent, he's become such a pinnacle point of it.
It's amazing how much it's turned around. I mean, he was such a good player. But I think he obviously only played until December, and then when he came back, he was good, but he missed out a crucial part of the season. Yeah, that's true. So I would say player of the season for me, I think it's got to come from our defence because I think, despite certain games, Merseyside, that was one of our. That was one of our strong points this year. I mean, I don't know what happens. It's just part of the Arsenal. There's something ingrained into the way we play for some reason that we're quite good at fucking ourselves over and getting twatted. But I think, I would say, I don't know, it's between Koscielny and Mertesacker. I'm not quite sure which one.
It's very difficult to pick between them because as a unit, a partnership, they work so perfectly. They're really balanced out. They really complement each other. If you take them individually, Koscielny's great at making those last-ditch tackles. He's got that recovery pace, but without that positioning ability from Mertesacker, he's too aggressive in the tackle. And we've seen that throughout the season. He gets these really silly yellow cards, even red cards, and sometimes he makes mistakes. Whereas Mertesacker, everyone says it's his lack of pace, which punishes him. And that's true to a certain extent. But also he's capable of making these kind of errors where he doesn't
Yeah.
quite judge the situation correctly.
I mean, especially in 2012. Do you remember that season when he used to? I think it was getting Norwich, where he just, I don't know, let the player run past him and he slipped over every now and again and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you can't really take them as one player. I think if you had to, it would be Per Mertesacker. For me personally, he's just such a leadership role for the team. Like, what defining memory of his leadership is that game against the Etihad. We're losing 6-3. Ozil was walking off the pitch on the 90th minute, not even going to thank the fans for coming, and he goes and like screams at him, and that really for me sort of caps how much of a leader he is.
I mean, he's a great player, Mertesacker. We're very lucky to have him, and I think if when Vermaelen does inevitably go, the captaincy comes up to, I don't know. Yeah. I think Mertesacker would be a good shout. Koscielny is a very, very good player, but seems a little bit reserved sometimes in the way he responds to the game. So actually, I think Per Mertesacker we could probably agree on that.
Yeah.
Other players though that have had a really good impact, although it's not as obvious. I think Flamini had a good impact because he was loud, and even it's not so much a footballing one, but it's just the way the squad, like Ozil. The way the squad built around him and kind of responded to buying him, they gave a really good kind of feeling around the club. I mean, Flamini, in terms of footballing terms, wasn't 100%. No. But sometimes it's like, it'll be similar to the way Drogba kind of responds to, I don't know, going back to Chelsea. He will add this year. Add a lot of kind of winning mentality. I know it's a bit of a taboo subject in football, but like, the way the players will respond to having a world-class striker come back to the club will only be positive, and that's kind of what Flamini did on a lower key level, really, obviously.
I mean, I agree with you to a certain extent, but I also think that Flamini's footballing ability definitely left a lot to be desired, and I think in a lot of games he did cost us. I think at the very start of the season, without him, we would have lost that game against Tottenham, and the feeling would have been very, very negative. Yeah. And so yeah, I think obviously Ozil has to be given a mention. He was such a positive influence at the club. Although the stick Giroud gets, he does need to be kind of applauded. He did score something like
22 goals.
22 goals in all competitions or something.
It's not bad. I mean, considering how bad we thought he was.
Yeah.
He did score some quite important goals.
And he did set up a lot of goals as well.
Sagna had a decent season as well.
Yeah, Sagna, and I kind of want to say Chesney, but he still has this ability to somehow cock things up with these. Like, he's gotten away with it a few times, but against Liverpool, he was very painfully
poor.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible.
I'd say player of the season. I think should we agree, Mertesacker?
Yeah, I think Per Mertesacker definitely deserves it.
So now we've got to pick a goal of the season, and also these things are really weird because it's kind of like, it's purely aesthetic. Like, a goal is a goal, really. But how good it is, who are we really to judge the quality of a 40-yard strike as a well-built-up goal? But aesthetically, there's two that really come to mind for me, and one always gets overshadowed by the other, and that is obviously Will Shearer against Norwich and Thomas Rosicky against Sunderland. And I think the Norwich one is obviously amazing. I mean, it's some beautiful little flicks from Giroud and Wilshere, and we know Giroud can do those flicks, and the way Wilshere did as well. But part of me really kind of almost prefers the Rosicky one because it's clear-cut passing. It's very well done. I think they had 4 defenders and they're just out of the game. And the difference between that goal and the Wilshere one is the way in which passing is very, very, very kind of our strong suit. You can see that's the kind of thing you do on the training ground. Whereas the other one was obviously skill, but you could argue potentially that it was a bit of a lucky. It's lucky how the ball comes off the boot. How can you really accommodate that? So I would personally go for the Rosicky one because also the finish is lovely because he actually dinks it over Manone, I think it is actually.
Yeah, Manone.
So personally, Rosicky in terms of out of those two, but obviously both are just. It's so refreshing to have those two goals to actually say, which one's better because they were so both ridiculously good. But I mean, you're quite a big fan of the Mesut Ozil goal, weren't you?
Yeah, I said this before. That game against Napoli at home was fantastic, and that Ozil goal against Napoli, the way that Ramsey cuts it back, and just imagine how much technical ability it takes to strike that ball when it's coming at him pretty quickly, and it's not straight on the ground. It's kind of in the air. It's kind of bobbling a little bit. And to hit that so perfect, literally, Pepe Reina's glove is an inch away, but only because he hits it the exact spot it needs to be. And it was such a perfect
It was at that
finish.
moment you thought, fuck me, we've got a good player on our hands.
Yeah, there was so much expectation, and to do it on,
his first goal.
Quote the phrase, the biggest stage, on the Champions League, and to do that, it was
his first goal at the Emirates. It was an insane goal. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was the same. Like, do you remember his in terms of Özil? Do you remember the Giroud goal against Sunderland? And I think Gibbo just like smashes up the pitch or something. And he just takes it with that perfect touch, and then just like half-heartedly like plays across the box if it's nothing.
It almost seems too simple to him. Like
Yeah.
he did that. He just sort of put his laces through it as such, but he didn't. He like controlled it so perfectly, but it didn't look like he put a lot of effort into it. It was really strange, but I kind of have to give it more towards the more Thomas Rosicky goal.
Yeah.
I like how in that attack we started off really slowly.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden Rosicky added that like bit of extra momentum, and things just started happening. And the Sunderland defence didn't quite react to it, and all of a sudden it just happened.
Bang.
Like Rosicky
We
was
were
through
in
a goal.
behind, and
And then he just put it over him. There are a few other honourable mentions. Aaron Ramsey against Liverpool.
Ramsey scored 3 amazing goals.
3 very quality goals. Like obviously against Liverpool at home, against Norwich also at home, then also against Norwich at Carrow Road. That volley into the top corner as well. I mean,
if that had been a part of the season where we really, I mean, it was the end of this season, so it was a bit kind of like it's overshadowed, I think. But
quite a bit.
It was such a good goal.
I mean, even the other fans, the Norwich fans, were clapping. They were applauding that.
Yeah.
Like you saw it on the replays.
And it's exciting. It makes me excited because, it shows that it wasn't just a fluke thing. Like, he's really changed his game. It's almost a different player.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say I'm going to give it to Rosicky's goal because I just think it's so good. I mean, the Norwich one, Wilshire's goal, you could probably say it's better, but purely from an Arsenal perspective and the way we play, I would give it to Rosicky. But I mean, they're both like 9.9 out of 10.
I think
goals.
Obviously, in terms of technical ability, and I've said that already, but like passing is very difficult to do that at that speed. And to get it that precise and accurate,
straight to feet and into the space, it was such a good goal.
But at the same time, the technical ability that for almost 3 or 4 of the goals, Ozil and then the 3 Aaron Ramsey goals, that one against Norwich at Carrow Road where he takes it on the volley, that took so much technical ability, and the Ozil one against Napoli, I'm very caught between those two. But I think it's the Arsenal philosophy, pass and move football. It has to go to Rosicky against Sunderland, I think.
I'm trying to think of any other goals in the Premier League that came close to this. I mean, Suarez scored some ridiculous goals.
Oh yeah, he was pretty incredible.
But again, it's against that dodgy Norwich defence that you never know. Well, actually, to be fair, he just twatted it from 45 yards, so it doesn't make any difference.
It's true.
He scored some really nice goals. I think what other really nice goals were? Delph scored that pretty. Well, I suppose it was a bit of a fluky goal actually against Chelsea. But I don't know. I think we literally did score some of the best goals in the Premier League this season, which is. It was nice to see because it was during our strong period as well. Okay, now we're going to move on to our final kind of section, and this is a short one before we go on to the 2014-15 stuff. And it's just purely, what would you say if I asked you after that 90 minutes against Norwich and the end of the season, what would you need to improve right there before you knew that we were signing, this and another?
I think obviously at that point we didn't know Sagna was leaving. We thought he was still going to stay, so can't really say we needed a new right back. A striker was like a centre forward is something that we've always said we've needed, but we've still managed to do okay. He wasn't desperately needed. I think the way in which throughout halfway through the season, Aaron Ramsey was out injured, Ozil, Jack Wilshere. We were stuck with Flamini and Arteta in that midfield pivot with like.
It's essentially Chambo chucked in there.
Yeah, we had to throw in Chamberlain. I think it definitely comes down at that point. We definitely needed a centre midfielder.
Yeah. Also, one small mention goes out to our fullbacks. Against Chelsea and Liverpool, our big problem was that they just managed to get in behind so often. So, I mean, this is before I knew we were going to sign.
I mean, that's not really
Debussy, but
it's very controversial, that our fullback issue, because in one sense it's like tactical, as Arsene Wenger pushing them forward up the pitch, and then they got in behind. But you always get the feeling that Gibbs is more over average than quality.
Yeah. And Monreal was another one.
Yeah,
Monreal. Hopefully, we'll go into the new season. Monreal will be a different player, but we can hope dream. So anyway, we'll move on to 2014-15. So our kind of expectations for 2014-15, we've made some really clever signings, and if we're building on winning a cup, it will be kind of it's one of those things. It'll be interesting to see how that mentality goes through. But expectations, what do you think? Like, where would you like? Obviously, where would you like to see us play? It's a stupid question, but where do you reckon if you actually had to put money on it?
If I had to put money on it, being realistic, I'd like to say a top 2/3 finish.
Yeah.
I think obviously looking at like Manchester City and Chelsea squads, they're really strong, but I think for us still that we need to improve that centre mid role. We haven't really done anything with that. I think in terms of a striker, Giroud isn't going to take us to the title. My expectations is probably top 3 and Champions League quarter-finals, I'd like to say.
Quarter-finals? Okay, let's think. I reckon top 2. I reckon we will come second. That's my bet, because I think Chelsea are a strong team and Manchester City are a strong team, but they're very, very, very similar. And it's going to come down to who signed better players. If this mentality thing really has come into effect, and the players, we've got a good strong kind of team, and if Özil comes back from a World Cup, it's post World Cup, we're always quite good in those. I reckon. Well, actually, I'm saying that 2007 we were shite, but I would like to say that one of Chelsea or Manchester City, not both of them, can do 100% well, because it's not. It's the way their players, the signings they've made. Because Chelsea put a lot of money into their new players when the others have gone. So they've lost Lampard, who's a big part of that, just the squad kind of integration, you could say, and they've replaced him with Fabregas, who's got a dodgy history with Chelsea. Like, do you remember 2007 Carling Cup? There was always something dodgy there. So if Fabregas adapts, they will win the league, I think. Like, it's almost as free as that, because they've got Hazard, they've got some very, very good players, and it's Chelsea, they spend well, they've got Courtois back. Whereas City, again, are quite similar. Yaya Toure is a big player for them. He's been chatting all sorts of banal crap that gets over,
He didn't celebrate his birthday for buying the cake.
Say how much money, who cares? But then they've got players like Company, so it's very much a case of how the players are in those two camps. Whereas our players, we know they're going to play well at some point. They're going to be upbeat. There will be a time when we have a dodgy game and everyone's like, oh, Wilson out and whatever. But I reckon we can. I want to say we're consistent, but I suppose you could say we're consistently fourth. But I reckon if we've signed good players, nothing awful has happened to us. We haven't sold anyone for the first time in ages. I can see us coming second. But again, with you, I would say second or third is if I had to really put money on it.
Yeah.
The league again this year will be very much who starts the best and how things go. African Cup of Nations will be a big thing for City.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
year, isn't it?
I think so.
They lose their best player. And Toure.
I think like a big thing this year is who will drop the least amount of points against the smaller sides. We saw last season Mourinho picked up them like almost maximum points from the big matches, but he dropped so many points against the smaller sides that in the end they weren't really in the title properly. It's more between Man City and Liverpool, and nobody knows how Liverpool are going to react to this season having sold Luis Suarez. There's no point really speculating.
They're still a wild card, aren't they? They're 100% a wild card, and you just cannot. They could win the league easily.
Possibly,
they could win the league because if all their signings are great, but it's a tough one to say. But it's the same with Man United. Both of those clubs are in limbo at the moment. They could either win the league, or they could realistically finish out the top 4. I can't see that happen to City or Chelsea.
No.
It's harder to see for us, but I don't want to speak out my arse before we finish there and this gets quoted. So it's very much a case of Manchester United and Liverpool seeing how they react. I mean, Van Gaal and the loss of Suarez is very interesting.
Yeah, I think quite funnily enough, and ironically as Arsenal fans, we haven't actually mentioned Tottenham, which some persons actually said have almost vanished off the face of the earth because nobody's talking about them.
I almost feel a bit sorry for them because it's just no one has talked about them. This Pochettino guy, he's a good manager, but again can you see him winning the Premier League?
No, I don't say win the league. Yeah. Tottenham can't win the league. Well, I'm hoping though. This might come back to bite me in a year's time. But they could possibly break into the top 4.
That's what they always talk about, though, isn't it? Like
top 4 is our everything.
Yeah, and I don't know. I can't really see. I can't see them challenging that much or getting that many points because they just haven't spent well.
Well, I mean, it could be. Obviously, we say Liverpool and Man United are in limbo and a potential. You don't know what's going to happen. Tottenham do have an opportunity to sort of sneak in.
Yeah.
But I mean, you never know.
I just think they need a big signing. I don't know if they've gotten the bail money left or whatever, but they need what they need is just a talisman up front. They need a big striker, and it's just there's none of them going about.
Yeah, I've had a lot of Tottenham fans telling me that apparently Eric Lamela was injured. I honestly didn't realise. So
he actually scored 2 in a friendly, but I mean
2 whole goals. Wow.
Well, first 2 goals for Spurs, I imagine. I don't know, but they've got some good players. They've got good camp Spurs, but I mean I can't see them.
No,
Everton have got more of a chance.
That's true. I don't know about Romelu Lukaku, whether he's going to stay at Everton, but I think Everton top four is just too far.
It's too far, but they'll give a good run for it, and they'll be an exciting team to watch again. But yeah, in terms of, so where would I say? Arsenal second or third? First, again, is going to be, it's all about just how Chelsea and City react to not only their signings, but their current players. And it's a bit of a change. I mean, City, when they won the league last year, it was weird. It was a weird league last year because everyone thought Liverpool were going to win it. It looked like it was bang on Liverpool, and then all of a sudden it kind of slipped up, and City just came in from nowhere. That was not even intentional. So I don't know. So I would say the top four. If you had to guess the top four, let's stick our necks out.
All right, I'm gonna say first. I don't honestly think Man City will do to hold the title. Yeah. So I think Chelsea. Then second, Manchester City.
Yeah.
Then Arsenal, and then I'm gonna say, now this is really tough, but I want to say Man United will probably sneak it on the last day. It'll be the very last second. Van Gaal will celebrate. It'll be a great achievement for the club, even though they're talking about the title.
I'll go same with you. Chelsea first. It's a mixture between Arsenal and Chelsea for a second. I don't know. I need to see us play properly, but I'm gonna go. No, sorry, did I say?
You already said Chelsea first.
Sorry, I mean City. I'm going to go City second, Chelsea third, and I'm going to go Liverpool fourth because they're playing Champions League.
I take you mean Arsenal third.
What did I say?
You said Chelsea third. They're coming first, second, and third.
Okay, right. Chelsea win it. City second, Arsenal third. I'm going to go Liverpool fourth because it's Champions League nights.
Surely their squad is going to be tested to the limits.
I don't know. Brendan Rodgers. This is a make or break season for Brendan Rodgers. I mean, last year he did really well, but. You don't want to use the word one season wonder, but it could be a case of that because he had Suarez under his belt. United look good, but it's all about down to who they sign. If they did by some miracle sign Vidal and a great centre back, then maybe if they could poll vote them. It's all about how people are spending. Yeah. It could put them in a good esteem. Okay, what would you say then? Who do you reckon will be Arsenal's up and coming player this year? Who do you reckon will come out? No, who will be a Ramsey this year?
A Ramsey this year. See, a lot of the I want to say in the know, but very people involved with the club are saying Jack Wilshere, this is his make or break season, which I don't personally agree with.
Yeah.
But to say the biggest up and coming player, I wouldn't say it was so much Wilshere. I think he's a great talent, but I don't see him being the outlier player here, the big player.
Yeah.
I think for Aaron Ramsey, it just has to be if he can continue this form, that's almost like he's still doing it.
See, I fancy, and it's a weird one, but I reckon Giroud. I reckon he's had 2 seasons now. He's gone to a World Cup, and before, where was he at? He was at Montpellier, and then he got a big move to Arsenal off the back of one really good season, and then a couple of French call-ups. But now he's been here for 2 years. He's going to have some outrageous players playing in behind him, and I reckon I can see him getting a good 25, 30, 26 goals. I reckon he can do a bit what Adebayor did. In 2007, 2008.
What, and then also fuck off to Man City?
I don't think he's there time. But, because I can just see him, he's had a couple of seasons to get his footing, and then suddenly he's going to pop up and have, an amazing season.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Because I think if we don't sign a striker, Arsene Wenger will know that, he's put a lot of... Giroud will know that Arsene Wenger's put a lot of kind of emphasis on how the season's going to go for him. And I could see it being a really positive one. Also, Serge Gnabry, if we actually don't loan him out, he'll be a big player.
I'll tell you what, one player we haven't even thought about is, Walcott. He's been with the club for 6-7 years now, and because he was injured, he looked a player, just before he got injured.
Yeah.
And so obviously coming back, Walcott, I think really he could. He's not going to be back until late August, early September, something like that. But he's going to have some quality players around. He's going to have Sanchez possibly up front, Ozil behind him, Cazorla out wide, Ramsey behind him. Who knows what centre mid? Maybe Jack Wilshere. Maybe it might just still be Arteta. But I think if Walcott gets the amount of service he should do, and Ozil thrives on that, I think he could be a great player this season.
I'll tell you another player actually who will have a big season because he's kind of he's always been there or thereabouts in this kind of up and coming player, but he's never quite had that proper breakthrough season where everything goes right, and that is Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain.
That's true, actually.
he's got a lot of good wingers around him now, and he's going to have to really go, fuck this, I'm playing, and get in there. And I think he's obviously a player with the talent. He's missed the World Cup, and he'll be desperate to kind of stamp his mark there. He wants to be in that England team in 2016, and there, afterwards. And I think he will have a good season this year, undoubtedly, and as long as he stays injury free. Gibbs is another player. I think he might step it up. He might or might not. I don't know. If we have a really good season, he might step it up. Same with Chesney's. We've got a new goalkeeper, but it's very much a season of we're past that season of kind of transgression or not transgression. What am I on about? Change.
Yeah.
Transformation. I don't know what I'm saying.
Just random words.
So we're past that, and now we're into this kind of very much. Yeah. We're here to win stuff.
So
mentality.
if it had to come between like 3 players, it would be for me, Walcott, Wilshere, probably Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 players.
I would go because I think I don't know about Walcott, but I'd say Giroud, Wilshere, and Chamberlain.
Fair enough.
Personally, what about in the Premier League? What players overall are you gonna say? Who do you reckon? If you had to put your money on who's gonna come out of nowhere to get 20 goals, like Sturridge last year, who would you say?
See, I don't honestly know much about the league as a whole.
Yeah,
like I see other transfers and things, but I don't really imprint it in my mind. I'm pretty much just all Arsenal.
Okay.
So if I had to say one player, I honestly couldn't tell you.
Oh, okay, that's fair. So I reckon if I was gonna, there's some out of the kind of young players. There's a lot to talk about. I reckon we're gonna see a lot from Ravel Morrison.
Oh yeah.
I reckon because he had a decent season in the Championship. He wasn't 100%. But now, it's slipping away from him, and he's, QPR kind of, West Ham, should we keep him or not? If he stays, and he'll be playing in a decent West Ham side, he could be a big player. Graziano Pele from Southampton, I think they've officially signed him now, scored banging in the goals in the Eredivisie. It's always, will he or will he not have a good season? I reckon, Saints, they've got a good kind of, there's a good feeling around that club, and they've signed some good players in him and Tadic, and I think he could be a good player. Similarly, Wilfred Bonny, he will have a good season because he's had a decent World Cup, and if he doesn't get the move this year, he will kind of continue. I can see him having a really good season. Some of the players that the Newcastle have signed, there's been a lot of really good signings, and there's a lot of players that could really, really kick off this year and have a great season. And I honestly reckon this will be one of the most interesting seasons, one of the most exciting seasons for a long time. Because out of that top 5, if you say Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, City and Arsenal, any 5 of them, you wouldn't be shocked if they won.
No.
Like, literally, you could say Arsenal or Liverpool because, we're not well nuanced in it for a long time. But any of those teams, if they won it, it wouldn't be a massive shock. Last year, if you'd have said Liverpool won it, in August, everyone would have gone like, no. It would have been an interesting shout. You probably would have won a lot of money on it. So when they came second, it was really exciting. I think this year there's so ambiguity in who's going to win it. There's no bang on winner.
No.
So it's really exciting. And now, best signing. So I'm going to start off with a really easy one. Tyler, who do you say is the best signing for Arsenal this year?
Well, it's pretty tough. I mean, there's been some great players. Matthew Debussy, potentially Callum Chambers. Ospina is also a good shout, but no, it's Sanchez really.
That's a really interesting call there, Tyler.
Yeah, I'm really
and now, more excitingly, the Premier League. Who would you say? Because Sanchez is a really good signing, but again, he's a bit of an unknown entity in how he will perform in the Premier League. You could compare him to Jesus Navas Jesus, whatever his name is, when he came last year, because big winger in the Liga, playing a lot of football, but no one's really sure. And then he's similar to Özil in the same fashion. He's come from Barca and from Barcelona, Real Madrid, one of those big clubs. But I would say Cesc Fabregas, as much as it pains me to say, could be an amazing signing for Chelsea, because that's exactly what they've needed. They've always wanted one of these. Yeah,
I think especially after Frank Lampard has now left the club. Yeah, he's very similar to Lampard in that sense.
And there was almost that hatred. I remember. Well, I think Frank Lampard he said something like, he never got on with Cesc in his playing career, but he loves Chelsea and therefore he wants Cesc to do well or something like that. But I mean, they always came to blows. It was always a weird thing. It's because they were so similar. But I think Cesc Fabregas, because Chelsea have that kind of front row of players that are just itching to get in behind, like Azar, Oscar, players like that, and it could be very, very good for him. Also, how are the Chelsea fans going to react to him? I mean, he's a gooner.
Yeah, that's
through,
true.
really. Let's face it. And he's ended up at Chelsea, and it was it's not something I particularly care about.
No, I mean, it's pretty interesting, like, story subplot throughout the season. Like, I kind of want to see him play on, like, you know, when you watch Match of the Day or something. Like, you want to see him play, but at the same time, watching him play for Chelsea...
I mean, it's the same thing, like, it's bad, but after we sold Van Persie, I would actually watch United games just to be intrigued to see how we went, because he was, you know, he was an Arsenal, a product of Arsenal, as it says.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And it's just, you're intrigued to see how he does. I'm mixed on Cesc. I mean, he looks a bit odd now. I mean,
I don't know. Obviously, his like receding hairline is probably something to point out there.
He looks like he's having a breakdown, but I reckon he's a really, because they got him for so cheap as well, 28 million for a player of that
steam.
That's
very cheap.
Although, then you're looking from Barca, you know, he never really made it. When I look at Cesc, he's a player that he never fulfilled his true. If you compare him to of the obvious choices, Xavi and Iniesta, he's got nowhere near that. I mean, he obviously played Iniesta for the goal in the World Cup final. He played for 420 minutes. And but he's never quite been that world-class centre mid that he always had the capacity to reach. And I think Chelsea, he could be that man. He could do that now, and it would be horrible to see, but he's a good shout. Herrera is another one.
Yeah, I was about to say that actually. To you know, a lot of Man United fans for the past year have been constantly angry with their central midfield. They're like slagging off like Fellaini, Cleverly, even Anderson was like thrown in with a shout there. Yeah, and for this whole season they were complaining that their centre mid was their like weakest point, and with a strike force of like Van Persie and Rooney, and with their somehow solid centre backs who I don't rate very highly.
Evans and Jones. Yeah,
somehow the centre mid seems to be the weakest point, and Herrera could be the player to like make everything come together.
Well, statistically as well, again it's the Spanish league, but he hasn't been playing around world class players at Bilbao. I mean, he's been playing good players, but none of them are world class. So put him in, you know, with Van Persie ahead of him, and you know, Mato to his right or whatever. He's going to be an exciting prospect. Again, 28 million. You could say that is quite an inflated price. I mean, I can't remember. Who was it? Ben? No, not Ben yet. So I don't even know what about. Bilbao have sold their players for a lot of money. It was Javi Martinez, is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
He went for 40 odd million. So maybe they're just very good at getting money out of players, but. He could be an interesting signing, as could, hopefully, and this is more from an England perspective, Luke Shaw. I hope he has a good season, but I think the money could alter the way he plays. It's one of those dodgy ones.
Apparently he's done 160 grand as well, which, I mean, I really don't think that can't be true, surely not, because that is just ridiculous.
It's crazy. I mean, I've heard it's between 100,000 grand and... But it's crazy. Also, another clever signing, actually, speaking of Spurs, was Ben Davies, because they got him for half the price. And he's been solid for Swansea. Yeah, and obviously, because he's Welsh, they didn't have to pay the English premium. But he could be an interesting player. It'd be interesting to see how he does. Yeah. But, I mean, in terms of signings, you've obviously got your Costa, your Felipe Luis, Mangala, maybe. And even Fernando, I think they signed for Porto. There've been some clever signings going about, but no real marquee ones besides Sanchez and Costa and Fabregas.
Those are the big ones. Like after watching the World Cup, obviously from a Spanish point of view, not so much. But those are the truly world class players. Like you know, to think that from Barcelona they've lost out on two world class players. You know, 3 years ago that might never happen.
But then you could also say, with Barca though, I mean, it's a crazy club. Real Madrid and Barca I can't even fathom how they run their clubs, because it's just absolutely nuts. Like, players coming in for massive sums, and it's just nuts. But it's good for the Premier League, because we get these great players. Yeah. And it's going to be such a good season. I'm really excited.
I think one thing we should mention, just so we don't get any people saying, is that Liverpool's signings, while not average, not quality, they're in between. Like,
they've got the potential to be quality.
Yeah, I think Liverpool's biggest problem is definitely going to be the actual size of their squad. With Champions League nights, FA Cup, Carling Cup, Premier League, a big squad is what they need, and with as far as money, they're definitely doing that. Yeah. They're definitely getting a big enough squad to compete.
You know, if Markovic really does fulfil his potential, and maybe this Origi guy they're going to sign from Lille, then that's really good business for 25 million. But then it's the same. They've got the potential, and it's always dangerous. The same with Chambers, really. We can't really speak. They have the potential to be supremely average. Yeah. Liverpool they're buying players just before their peak, which is an exciting thing to do. And it's something the we were always good at. Like before, obviously, think about it. Who did they sign? Downing, who was a player that was at his peak, really, and it was only ever going to go down. Same with Carroll, really. I mean, Carroll probably peaked at 19. So with the one goal against, I know, was at Chelsea or something. So it's very... You can't speak too much about Liverpool because you don't know which way they're going to go. They have made some astute signings, though. Ricky Lambert is a really good signing for £4 million because he'll get 10 goals next year.
Yeah.
Easily. Depends, I don't know what tournaments that'll be in, but he'll get 10 goals, 100%. It's, as Tyler said, a kind of fairy tale signing or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, you know, the fact that he's come from like League 2, League 1, what was it, and he's come all the way to the pinnacle of football, some Liverpool fans would say.
And he can take a penalty, so if they ever get into trouble...
well, there's going to be some competition between him and Stevie, isn't there?
And then you've got like Remy, who's a very good signing. I mean, he was always... Again, QPR are a bit weird with their transfers, but he was a very good signing for that money. QPR actually, coincidentally, have made some good signings in Ferdinand and Kulka. They're just clever signings. They'll, you know, I can see them staying up with players like that in the squad.
Yeah, I think Harry Redknapp's going to get, you know, as much as possible out of them. I think so.
Well, and now, Tyler, this is just interesting. Aside from all Premier League stuff, the best signing, right, in world football.
See, a lot of people are gonna like scream out James Rodriguez or James or whatever they
if you look at stats in League One, a bit, you know, they're not.
Yeah.
When you're playing against St Etienne,
you're expecting quite a lot.
I mean, you just look at it. Compare his stats, right? And this is a good one. Compare his stats to someone a bit like what's his name? I can't remember his name for the life of me now. I completely lost it. Kabaye, a player who, you know, if he was, you know, he played the Premier League for a long time, he was a decent player, and he's got decent stats. And then if you just look purely at what Ibra could do in that league, I mean, the amount of fucking goals he scored is ridiculous. And he's a great player, but I mean, you've got to look at the French league and see maybe you want a bit more out of it. I would say, actually, you know, Cruz was a better signing than James Rodriguez.
Probably.
But you're riding the World Cup hype and the World Cup.
I think in terms of the best signing, you can't say one individual signing. I think, you know, for La Liga, the El Clasico, with three brand new quality players in Cruz, Suarez, and Rodriguez. And throw in an extra name there, why not? For then. I mean, I assume all of you have seen that image of like the El Clasico.
Yeah.
What one half is like the five, like number 8 to number 12 or something like that. And
Lewandowski, what about Lewandowski? We almost forgot about him.
Oh yeah, to Bayern Munich.
That'll be interesting, because Bayern haven't made any real big moves this year. I mean,
obviously, Mandzukic went to Atletico Madrid,
that's
so
a decent signing actually.
So that they really had to replace him with Lewandowski.
He could. I mean, Lewandowski's a great player, 100%. But he's a bit of a Bundesliga player, like.
Yeah, I couldn't see him as much as like there's been so much transfer talk. I couldn't see him at like Real Madrid or like Barcelona.
He's just not that kind of. He's very, very good at what he does in the Bundesliga.
Yeah.
So he's a good signing. I don't know. I want to say Suarez, but it's a tough one. In terms of actually the MLS, there have been some great signings just for the league. Yeah. Just for the league. I mean, Kaká's gone to Orlando City, and this is for the up and coming MLS. So we're just coming to the close of the MLS 2014 year. They do it yearly, literally. So 2015 we'll have Villa at New York City with Lampard, and then you've got Kaká at Orlando City. So it's going to be really exciting. And the MLS, I would definitely, if anyone here doesn't watch it, if you go on the MLS YouTube, you can watch it all in like 720, and they put up really good highlights. And it's a great league to watch. Also, I suppose actually Villa, he's playing down in Australia somewhere, so that's a good one for that league. But it's just been an exciting year of football, and it's how the World Cup goes. I mean, we've got a lot of new World Cup players coming to the league, so Ener Valencia, you said earlier.
That's true. Yeah.
And it's just exciting, and the World Cup really adds something because it's people try and copy the way it's been played, and it will be a really, really good Premier League season.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. We've just talked, we've babbled on for.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of this is our own opinion. You don't have to agree with us. We encourage, you know, comments, bringing up points of debate. This was a trial run at a podcast. We don't know how to do podcasts properly, honestly. But, I mean, we just talk.
We want your comments. We want to see what people say. Send us some questions we can talk about. Who knows? But we just wanted to talk, and we've done that.
So like,
we saw we talked.
Fantastic quote there. 2014.
Just want to say thanks for listening. We really appreciate that some people actually still care who we are. I mean, it's crazy. True. And any comments would be great. Anything, any response, you know. And we appreciate it. And we just want to say thanks for putting up with our channel, or however many of you still here. And just send us some comments, and if this is something you want to listen to, let us know, and we will we'll make more. Right. And if you want it to be shorter as well, because this one I think is going to be long.
Yeah, it's going to be a long vid, so if you guys want shorter things talking about more specific discussions rather than like an overview, obviously we want to keep our focus more towards Arsenal.
And the Premier League.
And the Premier League as such. So yeah, if you guys want to hear more like that, that'd be great. Leave your comments below. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed.
Yeah, cheers guys.